Kira counted the seconds in her head. She had been doing this for the past 15 minutes. The number kept growing, and with each passing moment, her worry grew bigger too. The children were quiet, too quiet. Kira was a Volari, a species that looked like a mix between a large cat and something that walked on 4 legs. Her fur was soft and gray, and her eyes were big and yellow. She had been working as a caretaker on Station Halo for 3 years now. In that time, she had learned many things about many species. But humans remained the most confusing of all. Station Halo floated in the empty space between 2 galaxies. It was a meeting place for dozens of different species. Some came here to trade. Some came to learn. And some, like the humans, came to build new lives far from their home world. Kira looked after 3 human children. Their names were Hana, Tay, and Yuna. Hana was the oldest at 9 years. She had long black hair and eyes that always seemed to be thinking about something important. Tay was 7, a boy with a round face and a smile that could make anyone feel happy. Yuna was the youngest at 6. She was small and thin, with hair cut short and a voice that was usually the loudest in any room. Usually, that was the problem. Yuna was never quiet. None of them were. Human children made noise the way stars made light. It was simply what they did. They laughed. They shouted. They ran through the station's corridors until the other species complained. They asked questions that had no answers. They sang songs that made no sense. But now, there was nothing, only silence. Kira stood in the common room of the human family quarters. She had left the children here 30 minutes ago. They had been playing with small, colorful blocks, building towers and then knocking them down. It was a strange game. But human children seemed to love destruction as much as creation. She had stepped out to speak with the station's food service about the children's meals. Humans needed special food. Their bodies could not process the same nutrients as other species. It was a short conversation. No more than 10 minutes. When she returned, she expected to find the blocks scattered everywhere, and the children arguing about whose tower was tallest. Instead, she found nothing. The blocks were still there, but the children were gone. And the quarters were completely silent. In Volari culture, silence meant something was very wrong. When cubs went quiet, it meant a predator was near. It meant danger. It meant death might be coming. Every instinct in Kira's body screamed at her to find the children immediately. She moved through the quarters quickly, her 4 legs carrying her with practiced ease. She checked the sleeping rooms first. The beds were empty. The small clothes the children wore were scattered on the floor. But that was normal. Human children did not understand the concept of putting things away. She checked the washing room. Empty. The small space where the children did their learning activities, also empty. The storage closet where they sometimes hid when playing games. Nothing. Kira felt her hearts. She had 2 of them beating faster. Where could they have gone? The quarters had only one exit, and she had not seen them leave. But children, especially human children, were clever. They found ways to go where they were not supposed to go. She stepped out into the main corridor of the station. Other beings walked past her. A tall Drenix with blue skin nodded at her. A group of small Makari chittered among themselves as they hurried to some important meeting. None of them seemed alarmed. None of them were looking for 3 small humans. Kira approached the nearest information terminal. "Computer," she said, her voice tight with worry. "Locate the human children assigned to my care. Names: Hana, Tay, and Yuna." The computer hummed for a moment. "The children are currently located on Observation Deck 7. Observation Deck 7, that was on the other side of the station. How had they gotten there so quickly? And more importantly, why? Kira began to run. Her legs moved fast, carrying her through the corridors. Other beings stepped aside when they saw her coming. A running Volari was not something anyone wanted to get in the way of. As she ran, her mind filled with terrible thoughts. The observation decks had large windows that looked out into space. They were safe. Of course. The windows were made of materials that could not break, but human children were curious. They touched things they should not touch. They pressed buttons without knowing what those buttons did. She remembered the time Tay had nearly opened an airlock because he wanted to see what the button did. She remembered when Hana had tried to communicate with a dangerous species because she thought they looked lonely. She remembered when Yuna had eaten something from another species' food supply and had to spend 2 days in the medical center. Humans were brave. That was what everyone said. Humans were strong and clever and did not give up. But human children were also reckless. They did not understand danger the way other species did. They ran toward it instead of away from it. Kira reached the transport tube and stepped inside. "Observation Deck 7, she said. "Maximum speed." The tube shot forward, carrying her across the station. Through the transparent walls, she could see the stars outside. Millions of them, scattered across the black emptiness of space. They were beautiful, but Kira had no time to appreciate them now. She thought about what she would say to the children when she found them. She would be firm but kind. She would explain why they should not wander off alone. She would tell them that she was responsible for their safety and that they had scared her very much. But first, she had to find them. She had to make sure they were safe. The transport tube stopped, and the doors opened. Kira stepped out onto Observation Deck 7. It was a large open space with curved windows that showed a perfect view of the stars. Several beings stood near the windows, looking out at the endless darkness. But Kira did not see the children. She walked further into the deck, her yellow eyes scanning every corner. Where were they? The computer said they were here. But the deck was big, with several smaller areas branching off from the main space. Then she heard something. It was not a loud noise. In fact, it was barely a noise at all. It was more like a feeling. A sense of something that was not quite right. No. That was wrong. It was something that was very right. Something peaceful. Something calm. Kira followed this feeling. It led her to a small alcove near the back of the deck. This alcove had the best view of the stars, away from the crowds. It was quiet here. Private. And there, in this quiet private space, Kira found the children. They were sitting on the floor, all 3 of them. Their legs were crossed, their hands resting on their knees, their eyes closed. They sat in perfect small circles, evenly spaced apart. They were not moving. They were not talking. They were barely even breathing. Kira froze. She did not understand what she was seeing. Were they hurt? Were they in some kind of trance? Had something happened to them? She took a step closer, her worry growing stronger. But then she noticed something. Their faces were not twisted in pain. Their bodies were not tense with fear. Instead, they looked peaceful. More peaceful than she had ever seen them. The starlight fell across their small bodies, making them glow with soft silver light. They looked like tiny statues. Perfect and still. The silence that had scared Kira so much now felt different. It felt intentional, chosen. Kira stood there, watching them. She did not know what to do. In all her time caring for human children, she had never seen anything like this. She had seen them run and jump and scream. She had seen them cry and laugh and fight. But she had never seen them be completely, perfectly still. Something was happening here. Something she did not understand. And for the first time, Kira wondered if maybe the silence was not a sign of danger. Maybe it was something else entirely. Kira did not move. She stood at the edge of the alcove, watching the 3 human children sit in their perfect stillness. The stars burned bright behind them through the observation window. Time seemed to slow down. And for a long moment, nothing in the universe existed except this strange, quiet scene. She had cared for children of many species in her career. The Drenix young were loud and competitive. They fought each other constantly, testing their strength until they learned their place in the group. The Mikari babies were nervous creatures, always hiding and making small, scared sounds. They needed constant comfort and reassurance. The Tholani offspring were cold and logical, even from birth. They calculated everything and showed little emotion. But humans were different from all of them. Human children were chaos wrapped in soft skin. They changed from moment to moment. One second they could be crying, the next second laughing. They felt everything so deeply and showed it without shame. Kira had learned that human emotions were like storms on their home world, powerful, unpredictable, and impossible to stop. That was why this silence scared her so much. It went against everything she knew about human children. Kira took a small step forward. Her foot made no sound on the deck floor. She had learned to move quietly around sleeping children, and the skill served her well now. She did not want to disturb whatever was happening here, not until she understood it. She studied each child carefully. Hana sat closest to the window. Her long black hair hung down her back, perfectly still. Her hands rested on her knees with the palms facing upward. Her face held an expression that Kira had never seen on her before. It was calm, completely and utterly calm. Hana was usually a worried child. She worried about her studies. She worried about making friends with children from other species. She worried about her parents, who worked long shifts in the station's research department. She worried about everything, always thinking about what could go wrong. But now, there was no worry on her face, only peace. Tay sat to the left of Hana. His round face usually held a smile that could light up any room. But now, his face was neutral, relaxed in a way that Kira had never witnessed. His chest rose and fell with slow, steady breaths. His fingers were curled slightly, resting gently on his legs. Tay was the active one. He could never sit still for more than a few minutes. He always needed to be doing something, touching something, exploring something. The idea of him sitting quietly for any length of time seemed impossible. Yet here he was, as still as stone. And then there was Yuna, the youngest, the loudest, the one who asked questions without stopping and talked even when no one was listening. She sat to the right of Hana, her small body forming a perfect mirror of the other two children. Her eyes were closed, her breathing was slow, and she made no sound at all. This was the thing that worried Kira the most. Yuna was never quiet. Never. Even in her sleep, she made noises. She talked about her dreams. She laughed at things only she could see. Silence from Yuna was as strange as darkness from a star. Kira looked around the alcove, searching for some explanation. Maybe there was a device here that was affecting them. Maybe some other species had done something to them. The galaxy was full of beings with strange powers, mind readers, emotion controllers, dream walkers. Any of them could have done something to these children. But she saw nothing unusual. Just the three children, the stars, and the empty space around them. She thought about calling for help. The station had security officers who dealt with strange situations. It had medical personnel who knew about human biology. Maybe they could explain what was happening here, but something stopped her. The children did not look like they were in danger. They did not look like they were hurt or scared. They looked comfortable, content, at ease in a way that Kira rarely saw in any species, let alone humans. She decided to wait. Just for a moment. Just to see what would happen. Minutes passed. Kira counted them carefully, a habit she could not break. 5 minutes. Then 10. The children did not move. Their breathing stayed slow and steady. The starlight continued to wash over them, painting their young faces with silver and white. Other beings passed by the alcove entrance. Some glanced inside curiously. A tall creature with many eyes stopped and stared for a long moment, before moving on. A pair of small furry beings whispered to each other and pointed, but none of them interfered. Perhaps they, too, sensed that something special was happening here. Kira thought about her own childhood on the Valari homeworld. She had been taught from a young age to always be alert, to watch for danger, to never let her guard down. Her people had evolved on a world full of predators. Silence meant hiding. Stillness meant survival. But this was not the same. The children were not hiding. They were not scared. They had chosen this silence, this stillness. And somehow, That made it completely different. She remembered something she had read in her training materials about humans. It was a small note, almost forgotten among all the other information. It said that humans had practices called meditation and mindfulness. These were ways of training the mind to be calm and focused. The note said that some humans found peace through these practices. Though it was considered uncommon, could this be what the children were doing? Kira had never seen it before. None of her training had prepared her for the sight of 3 young humans sitting in perfect stillness like ancient statues. She wanted to understand. She needed to understand. Caring for these children was her responsibility. And she could not care for them properly if she did not know what they were doing and why. But she also did not want to interrupt them. Whatever this was, it seemed important. It seemed meaningful. Breaking them out of it felt wrong. Like waking someone from a beautiful dream, so Kira made a decision. She would wait until they were finished. She would watch over them and keep them safe. And when they opened their eyes, she would ask them to explain. She settled down onto the floor nearby, folding her 4 legs beneath her body. It was a comfortable position, one she could hold for hours if needed. Her yellow eyes stayed fixed on the children, watching for any sign of trouble. The station continued its slow rotation around them. Through the observation window, Kira could see distant nebulas and far-off star systems. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of any ship, new worlds were being born. Old worlds were dying. The universe moved forward in its endless dance of creation and destruction. And here, in this small alcove on a station floating between galaxies, 3 human children sat in silence. Kira found herself thinking about the humans as a species. They were so young compared to others. They had only been traveling among the stars for a few hundred years. The Valari had been doing it for thousands, the Drenics for even longer. By galactic standards, humans were barely more than babies themselves, yet they had spread so far so fast. They built stations and colonies on worlds that others had passed over. They adapted to environments that should have killed them. They made friends with species that had been enemies for centuries. They did impossible things every day, simply because no one had told them it was impossible. Most species in the galaxy feared humans or respected them. Some did both. Humans were known for their wars, their weapons, their refusal to give up even when defeat was certain. They were seen as dangerous, unpredictable, and endlessly ambitious. But watching these 3 children sit in peaceful meditation, Kira wondered if maybe everyone was missing something important about humanity. Yes, they could fight. Yes, they could destroy, but they could also do this. They could find stillness in the middle of chaos. They could create peace within themselves. Maybe that was the real secret of human strength. Not their weapons or their ships or their stubborn refusal to die. But this ability to stop and be quiet and find calm in their own minds. Kira did not know if she was right. She was just a caretaker, not a philosopher. But sitting here, watching over these silent children, she felt like she was witnessing something important, something that most beings in the galaxy would never understand. The stars continued to burn. The children continued to sit. And Kira continued to wait. Patient and curious, and full of questions that had no easy answers. The change came slowly. Kira noticed it first in Yuna, the smallest of the 3. The little girl's breathing shifted, becoming slightly deeper. Her fingers twitched once, twice, like she was waking from a long sleep. Then her eyes opened. Yuna did not jump up or make a loud noise. She simply sat there for a moment, blinking at the stars beyond the window. A small smile appeared on her face. It was a gentle smile, different from her usual wild grin. It was the smile of someone who had found something precious and was still holding it close. Then Tay opened his eyes. He stretched his arms above his head slowly, like a cat waking from a nap in the sun. He looked around the alcove with an expression of calm satisfaction. When he saw Kira sitting nearby, he did not seem surprised. He just nodded at her. as if having an alien caretaker watch over his meditation was the most normal thing in the universe. Finally, Hana came back. She was the last to open her eyes, and when she did, Kira saw something different in them. The usual worry was gone. In its place was a clarity that made the girl look older than her 9 years. Hana noticed Kira immediately. She uncrossed her legs and turned to face the Valari caretaker. Her movements were smooth and unhurried, completely different from the quick, jerky motions that human children usually made. "Hello, Kira," Hana said. Her voice was soft and steady. "How long have you been here?" Kira stood up from her resting position. Her legs felt stiff from sitting so long, but she ignored the discomfort. 15 minutes, she said. "I was looking for you." "I was worried," Hana nodded, and there was understanding in her eyes. "I am sorry we scared you. We should have told you where we were going." "Yes," Kira agreed. "You should have. What were you doing?" "I have never seen human children sit so still before." The 3 children looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind that Kira had seen human families share. Then Hana spoke again. "We were meditating," she explained. "Do you know what that means?" Kira had read about it, but she wanted to hear the explanation from the children themselves. "Tell me," she said. Hana thought for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "It is when you sit quietly and focus on your breathing. You try to clear your mind of all the busy thoughts. You just exist in the present moment, not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. It makes your brain feel clean," Tay added. He tapped his head with one finger. "Like when you take a bath, but for your thoughts." Yuna bounced slightly in her sitting position. She was slowly returning to her normal, energetic self. "I taught them," she announced proudly. "My grandmother taught me before we came to the station. She said it would help me when I felt scared or sad or too excited." Kira tilted her head, a gesture she had learned from the humans. It meant curiosity. "Your grandmother taught you this?" Yuna nodded eagerly. "She is very wise. She meditates every day, even though she is very old. She says it keeps her mind sharp and her heart peaceful." This was new information to Kira. She had met Yuna's grandmother once, during a family visit to the station. The old woman had seemed quiet and gentle, nothing like her energetic granddaughter. Now Kira wondered if that calmness came from years of this meditation practice. "Why did you come here to do it?" Kira asked. "Why the observation deck?" Hana gestured at the window behind her. The stars seemed to glow brighter now. Or maybe Kira was just paying more attention to them. "The stars help," Hana said. "When I look at them, I remember how big the universe is. It makes my problems feel smaller. And when I close my eyes, I can still feel them there, shining in the darkness. It is like they are meditating with us," Tay said softly. "The stars, I mean. They just sit there and burn, not worrying about anything. They just exist. I want to be like that sometimes." Kira did not know what to say. These were deep thoughts for such young minds. Most children, regardless of species, did not think about existence and the universe. They thought about games and food and whether their friends liked them. But human children were different. Kira had learned that over and over again. They could be silly and loud one moment, then profound and thoughtful the next. Their minds worked in ways that no other species could quite understand. "Does it help?" Kira asked. "The meditation. Does it actually make you feel better?" All 3 children nodded at the same time. "Yes," Hana said firmly. "Before I started meditating, I worried all the time. I could not sleep because my thoughts would not stop. I worried about my grades, about making friends, about whether my parents were safe. The worries never went away." She paused, and a look of relief crossed her face. "But when I meditate, the worries become quieter. They do not disappear completely, but they become like background noise. I can hear them, but they do not control me anymore." Tay jumped in eagerly. "And I could never sit still before. My body always wanted to move. My teachers said I had too much energy, but meditation helps me focus that energy. It is like putting all my excitement into a box and keeping it safe until I need it." Yuna nodded so hard that her short hair bounced. And I talk too much. Everyone says so. But when I meditate, I learn to be okay with silence. Silence used to scare me. I thought if I was quiet, people would forget about me. But now I know that silence can be powerful too. Kira listened to each child speak, and she felt something shift inside her. She had been so worried when she found them, so scared that something was wrong. But nothing was wrong. Something was very right. These human cubs had found a way to control their wild minds. They had discovered peace inside themselves, in a galaxy that offered very little peace to anyone, and they had done it together, sitting in their small circles like tiny copies of ancient wise beings. Yuna, Kira said slowly, you said your grandmother taught you this. Why did you teach it to Hana and Tay? Yuna looked at her friends with obvious affection. Because they were sad sometimes. Hana worried too much. Tay could not be calm. I wanted to help them the way my grandmother helped me. Friends should share good things with each other. The simplicity of the answer struck Kira deeply. Among many species, knowledge was hoarded like treasure. The Drenics kept their best fighting techniques secret. The Makari protected their hiding places fiercely. Even the Valari were careful about sharing their most important survival skills. But this human child had taken something precious, a gift from her grandmother, and shared it freely with her friends. She had not asked for anything in return. She had not made them promise anything. She had simply seen that they were struggling and offered them a tool that might help. That was very kind of you, Yuna, Kira said. Yuna beamed at the praise. Grandmother says kindness is the most important thing. More important than being smart, or strong, or fast. She says, the universe is hard enough, without people being mean to each other. Kira thought about this. She thought about all the wars she had heard about, all the conflicts between species, all the pain and suffering that filled the galaxy, and she thought about 3 small humans sitting in peaceful meditation, sharing their knowledge freely, trying to make each other's lives a little bit better. Maybe the grandmother was right. Maybe kindness really was the most important thing. Can you teach me? Kira asked suddenly. The words came out before she could stop them. The children looked at her with surprise. Then their faces lit up with excitement. Yes, Yuna exclaimed. I can teach you. It is easy, I promise. Hana smiled her calm smile. You should sit with us, Kira. There is room in our circle. Tay patted the floor beside him. Come on, it will be fun. Kira hesitated. She had never done anything like this before. The Valari did not meditate. They did not sit in silence and try to calm their minds. They stayed alert, always watching for danger. That was their way. But maybe, Kira thought, it was time to learn a new way. Maybe it was time to try something different. She moved toward the children and carefully lowered herself to the floor. Her 4 legs folded beneath her in an awkward position. It was not comfortable, but she would manage. Now what? She asked. Yuna clapped her hands together happily. Now you close your eyes. And you breathe. And you listen to the universe. Kira closed her eyes. Around her, she could hear the soft hum of the station, the distant sounds of other beings walking and talking, the gentle whisper of air moving through the ventilation systems, and beneath all of that, she could feel the stars, burning in the darkness, existing without worry or fear, just being. For the first time in her life, Kira understood why humans were so remarkable. It was not their weapons or their ships. It was this ability to stop and breathe and find peace in the middle of chaos. She sat with the children, eyes closed, breathing slowly, and for a few precious moments, everything was perfectly still. The meditation session lasted another 20 minutes. When Kira opened her eyes, she felt different. The constant hum of worry that lived in her mind, the awareness of danger, the readiness to flee had grown quieter. Not gone, but softer. Like a stream that had slowed to a gentle trickle, the children were watching her with curious expressions. Yuna bounced on her heels impatiently. How was it? She asked. Did you like it? Did you feel peaceful? Kira took a moment to consider her answer. She wanted to be honest with them. It was strange, she admitted. My mind kept wanting to think about things, about my duties, about possible dangers, about all the tasks I need to complete today. Hana nodded knowingly. That is normal. Your mind does not want to be quiet at first. It is like a wild animal that has never been trained. You have to be patient with it. The thoughts come, Tay added. But you do not have to follow them. You just watch them go by. Like ships passing outside the window. You do not jump on every ship. You just let them pass. Kira found this image helpful. Ships passing by, thoughts drifting through her mind without catching her attention. She would have to practice this more. Will you teach others? Kira asked. Other children on the station? The three friends exchanged looks again. There was excitement in their eyes, but also something else. Something that looked like hesitation. Some children might laugh at us. Hana said quietly. The Drenix kids already think humans are weak. If they see us sitting still and doing nothing, they will make fun of us. They say sitting still is boring, Tay said. His voice carried a hint of sadness. They say real strength is about fighting and winning, not about breathing and thinking. Yuna's bright expression dimmed slightly. One time I tried to teach a Makari girl, but she got scared. She thought I was trying to trick her. She thought closing her eyes near other people was dangerous. Kira understood these fears. Every species had different values. The Drenix worshipped strength and action. The Makari were ruled by fear and caution. Asking them to meditate was like asking them to go against their deepest instincts. But Kira also knew something important. Something she had learned from watching humans. Strength comes in many forms, she said slowly. The Drenix think strength is about muscles and fighting. The Makari think survival is about hiding and running. But humans have shown the galaxy something different. 2. The children leaned forward, listening carefully. Humans are strong because they can adapt. Kira continued. They can fight when they need to fight. They can run when running is wise. But they can also sit still and find peace within themselves. That is a kind of strength that most species cannot understand. Hana's eyes widened. You really think so? I know so, Kira said firmly. I have watched humans for years. I have seen your soldiers hold impossible positions against overwhelming enemies. I have seen your scientists solve problems that stumped the ancient species. I have seen your artists create beauty that moves beings who have no tears to cry. She looked at each child in turn. And now, I have seen 3 young humans find perfect stillness in the middle of a busy station. You sat in peace while the universe spun around you. Do you know how rare that is? How remarkable. The children did not seem to know what to say. They had probably never thought of meditation as something special. To them, it was just a thing they did to feel better. They did not realize how unique it was in the broader galaxy. Most species cannot do what you did, Kira explained. The Drenix are too restless. The Makari are too afraid. The Tholani are too locked in their logical minds. But humans can stop. Humans can breathe. Humans can let go of everything and just exist in the moment. My grandmother says humans have been doing this for thousands of years, Yuna said. Even before we went to space. Even before we had computers and ships. Reasoned. Yuna said. That is true, Kira nodded. I have read about human history. Your people have always sought inner peace. You built temples for meditation. You created practices to calm the mind. You understood, long ago, that true strength starts inside. Tay looked at his hands thoughtfully. I never thought about it like that. I just thought I was weird because I liked sitting still sometimes. You are not weird, Kira assured him. You are human. And humans are the most adaptable, most surprising species in the galaxy. Your ability to find calm in chaos is just one more example of that. Hana stood up and walked to the observation window. She pressed her palm against the cool surface and stared out at the endless darkness dotted with lights. My parents work so hard, she said softly. They are always stressed, always worried about deadlines and projects, and making sure we have enough credits to live. She turned back to face the group. Maybe I should teach them to meditate too. Maybe it would help them feel better. That is a wonderful idea, Kira said. I want to teach my whole family, Tay declared. My brothers never stop fighting. Maybe if they learned to be still, they would stop hitting each other. Yuna giggled. My grandmother would be so proud if she knew I was teaching everyone. She always said the practice was meant to be shared. Kira felt a warmth spreading through her chest. It was not a physical warmth, but something deeper. Something like hope. These 3 children had something valuable, and they wanted to share it with others. That impulse to help, to teach, to make others' lives better was perhaps the best thing about humanity. What about the other species? Kira asked. Do you still want to teach them, even if they might laugh or be afraid? The children thought about this seriously. It was clearly a difficult question. No one wanted to be mocked or misunderstood. Finally, Hana spoke. I think we should try. Maybe not everyone will want to learn. Maybe some will laugh. But what if even one person finds peace because of us? Would that not be worth the trouble? Tay nodded enthusiastically. My grandmother always says you should not keep good things to yourself. If you find a beautiful flower, you show it to others. If you hear a nice song, you sing it for your friends. Meditation is a good thing. We should share it. And if the Drenix kids laugh at us, Yuna said with sudden fierceness, then we will just sit still and not let it bother us, because that is what meditation teaches you, to let the bad feelings pass without holding on to them. Kira felt proud of these children. They were so young, but they understood something that many adults never learned. They understood that kindness and patience were stronger than anger and pride. I will help you, Kira offered. If you want to teach others, I will support you. I will explain to the other caretakers what you are doing. I will make sure you have safe spaces to practice. The children cheered. Yuna ran forward and hugged Kira's front leg, wrapping her small arms as far as they would go. Tay and Hana joined in, and soon Kira found herself surrounded by warm human bodies pressing against her fur. She stood very still and let them hug her. It was not something Valari usually did. Physical affection between non-family members was rare in her culture. But humans were different. They showed their feelings through touch, and Kira had learned to accept this. More than accept it. She had learned to appreciate it. There was something comforting about being held, about feeling the warmth of others who cared about you. When the hug finally ended, Kira looked at the children with new eyes. They were not just her charges, her responsibilities. They were teachers. They had shown her something beautiful today. Something she would carry with her for the rest of her life. Thank you, she said simply. Hana tilted her head, confused. For what? For being quiet, Kira said. For sitting still. For showing me that peace is possible, even in a galaxy full of noise. The children smiled at her. And in that moment, Kira knew that everything had changed. She had come to the observation deck expecting to find trouble. Instead, she had found wisdom. She had come running in fear. She would leave walking in peace. The universe was strange and wonderful, full of surprises that no one could predict. And sometimes, the biggest surprises came from the smallest sources, like 3 human children sitting in perfect circles, meditating among the stars. 3 months passed after that day on Observation Deck 7. The station continued its slow rotation between galaxies, carrying thousands of beings through the endless darkness of space. Life went on as it always did, with all its noise and activity and constant movement. But something had changed. Something small had grown into something larger than anyone expected. It started with just the 3 children and Kira. They met every day on the observation deck. In their quiet alcove, with the perfect view of stars, they sat in their circles and breathed together and let their thoughts drift away like clouds in a peaceful sky. Then Hana taught her parents. Her mother had been suffering from headaches caused by stress. After 2 weeks of meditation, the headaches became less frequent. After a month, they were nearly gone. Hannah's father, who had trouble sleeping because his mind would not stop racing, finally found rest. He slept deeply for the first time in years. Tay taught his brothers. At first, they laughed at him. They called him names and said he was acting strange. But Tay did not get angry. He just sat still and let their words pass by without catching them. After a week, his oldest brother got curious. After 2 weeks, both brothers were sitting with Tay every evening, learning to find calm in their busy minds. Yuna taught everyone who would listen. She talked about meditation constantly, inviting anyone and everyone to try it. Most beings said no. Some said yes out of politeness. But a few, a precious few, actually practiced what she taught them. Word began to spread through Station Halo. A Drenix warrior heard about the human meditation practice and was curious. He thought it was a combat technique, a way to focus the mind before battle. He came to the observation deck expecting to learn how to fight better. He left with something he did not expect, a sense of inner peace that made fighting seem less important. A Makari family learned about meditation from their daughter, who had become friends with Yuna at school. The Makari were scared to close their eyes at first. Their instincts screamed at them to stay alert, to watch for danger. But Yuna was patient. She taught them to sit with their backs against the wall, so they felt safe. She taught them to open their eyes whenever they needed to. Slowly, gently, she helped them find stillness, without fear. Even a Tholani researcher became interested. She approached the practice from a scientific perspective, measuring brainwaves and heart rates during meditation. Her studies showed that the practice reduced stress, improved focus, and enhanced emotional regulation. She published her findings in a scientific journal, and suddenly, beings across the galaxy were reading about the human meditation technique. Kira watched all of this happen with growing amazement. She had been a caretaker for many years. She had seen children grow and learn and change, but she had never seen anything like this. She had never seen 3 small humans start a movement that spread across species and cultures. The observation deck became a gathering place. Every evening, beings of all kinds came to sit in silence together. Humans and Drenix, Valari and Mikari, Tholani and species that Kira had never even met before. They sat in circles, big and small, and they breathed together. They let go of their differences. They stopped being separate species and became, for a few precious minutes, simply beings sharing a moment of peace. Kira often sat with them now. What had started as something awkward and unfamiliar had become a treasured part of her day. She looked forward to those quiet moments when the universe seemed to pause and take a breath. One evening, as the gathering was ending and beings were standing up to leave, the station commander approached Kira. He was a tall human, with gray hair and kind eyes. His name was Ho, and he had run Station Halo for 15 years. "This is remarkable," he said, gesturing at the crowds dispersing from the observation deck. "I have been on this station for a long time. I have seen many things, but I have never seen different species come together like this." Kira nodded. "The children started it. Hana, Tay, and Yuna. They taught me, and then they taught others." Commander Ho smiled. "Children often see things that adults miss. We get so caught up in our differences that we forget how much we share." He looked out at the stars, his face thoughtful. "Do you know what the greatest threat to peace in the galaxy is?" "Ace," Kira thought about it. "War? Disease? Limited resources?" The commander shook his head. "Fear. Fear is the root of all conflict. Species fight because they are afraid of each other. They hoard resources because they fear having nothing. They build weapons because they fear being destroyed." He turned back to face the observation deck, now almost empty except for a few beings still sitting quietly. "But, when you sit in meditation, you learn to let go of fear. You learn that the present moment is enough. You do not need to worry about what might happen. You just need to be here, now, breathing." Kira understood. She had felt this herself during her practice. The constant Valari fear of predators, the alertness that never let her rest, had finally begun to ease. She was still careful. She still paid attention to her surroundings, but she was no longer controlled by fear. "The children have given us a gift," Commander Ho said. "A way to find peace that anyone can learn. It does not require special equipment, or money, or status. It just requires the willingness to sit still and breathe." He put a hand on Kira's shoulder, a human gesture of respect. "Make sure those children know how important they are. Make sure they understand what they have done." Kira promised she would. Later that night, she found the 3 children in the alcove. They were sitting in their usual circles, but their eyes were open. They were looking at the stars and talking quietly among themselves. "Commander Ho spoke to me today," Kira told them. "He said you have given the station a great gift." The children looked surprised. They still did not fully understand the impact of what they had started. "We just taught people to breathe," Hana said modestly. "No," Kira said firmly. "You taught people to find peace. You showed them that stillness is not weakness. You proved that different species can sit together and share something beautiful. That is not a small thing. That is a very big thing." Yuna bounced excitedly. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," Kira said. "I have watched this station for 3 years. I have never seen beings from so many species gather in one place without arguing or competing. But they come here every evening to sit in silence together. Because of you." Tay looked thoughtful. "My grandmother always said that one small action can change the whole world. Like a stone dropped in water makes ripples that spread far away." "Your grandmother is very wise," Kira agreed. "And you 3 are the stone. The ripples are still spreading." The children sat quietly for a moment, absorbing this. Then Hana spoke. "Kira, do you think other stations could learn this too? Other places in the galaxy?" Kira considered the question. "I think so. If the right people teach it. If they are patient and kind and do not give up when others laugh or say no." Yuna's eyes went wide with dreams. "We could travel to other stations. We could teach everyone in the whole galaxy. One step at a time," Kira said with a gentle laugh. "First, you must grow up. Learn more. Practice more. Then, when you are ready, you can go wherever you want." Tay nodded seriously. "I want to help make the galaxy more peaceful. That is what I want to do when I grow up." "Me too," Hana agreed. "Me 3, Yuna exclaimed. Kira looked at these 3 small humans, sitting in the starlight, dreaming of peace. They were young and small and had so much to learn. But they had already done something amazing. They had shown an entire station that peace was possible, that different species could come together, that silence could be a bridge instead of a wall. She thought about what it meant to be human. All the things that humans were known for: their wars, their weapons, their endless ambition. But also this capacity for stillness, this gift for peace, this ability to find calm in chaos and share it with others. Humanity was young in the galaxy, a species just beginning to find its place among the stars. But if 3 children could change one station, then perhaps humans could help change the entire universe. Not through conquest, not through force, but through peace, through patience, through the simple act of sitting still and breathing together. The stars burned bright outside the window. The station hummed softly around them. And in the quiet alcove, 3 human children and 1 Valari caretaker sat together, watching the universe spin slowly by. Everything was exactly as it should be. For the first time in a very long time, Kira was not worried at all. She was at peace. And that, she knew, was the greatest gift the Cubs had given her.